Hey guys, Aaron here again. Today my buddy Eric is over here again with his 2008 135. We are going to change the brake fluid. So to do that, we obviously need to take off the wheels. I have a QuickJack, as you probably know, so we're going to use that so we can get all four off at the same time. If you don't have one, you can work one wheel at a time. Just a lot easier this way. Broke the nuts loose with a big breaker bar here, so we're going to jack it up, and then I'm going to have Eric take the nuts off the rest of the way and remove all of the wheels. All right, after the wheels are off, we can find the brake fluid reservoir. It's hiding under this little panel right here. And you can see when you're refilling it that there's a max line there and a min line. So it's nice and full right now. So this is what I use my cars too. Eric got the Modal RBF 600, which is a really great brake fluid, and we're going to use this motive power bleeder here to force the fluid into the system and out of the calipers. That way we're not going to introduce any air into the system. So Eric has opted to get a turkey baster type method to suck out some of the old fluid from the reservoir. Now, this isn't always necessary. I don't think I did this when I did mine. I just pushed it all the way through, but either way, this is probably the you're having to waste less fluid pushing it through.
Yeah, I didn't know how dirty this fluid was either.
And I just happened to change my oil, so we just got an empty oil container to dump our old fluid into. So you don't have to worry about getting everything out, but just get a good bit of it out, and then we're gonna just fill it back up with the new stuff. So you can see around the edge here, there's actually a little screen on this cart and most of them. So you can usually use just a flathead screwdriver to get the edge up and then pull it out with some pliers gently so you don't break it. So you can see that the filter on this reservoir is super deep. So he was able to stick that in and get out most of the fluid already. So we're just gonna leave that filter in place. So yeah, you can see it took about, 320 milliliters or so. Yeah, and a tip for pouring this stuff is poke a little hole on one side and then a little bit bigger over here, a little bit bigger over there, and then we can pour it in with a little more accuracy. So we're just gonna fill this back up with new stuff, and then we're gonna start using that pump to pump it through the system. So when you pump this through, you want to pick the caliper that is furthest away from the reservoir and work your way up. So we're going to start with the rear passenger wheel, and then we're going to do the rear driver wheel, and then the front passenger, and then front driver in that order. So we're just going to set up to start getting the fluid out. The kit that I have, I'll put a link in the description, is really cool because it's got this little magnet on here, so you can just stick it right onto your rotor here. Get it a little closer, but it'll stick right here. And then on the back of your caliper, you're gonna have a little nipple that has a nut on it. And your tube is just going to press right over there. So there's like a head right here that you're gonna put a wrench on and loosen it. And when you loosen it, it's gonna allow the bleeder screw to open and the fluid is gonna start coming out. So before we do that, we have some other stuff to do, but now this is how this looks. So here's our pressure bleeder. I have the, I think it's the Pro Cap or whatever on here that you can twist and it won't kink up your hose. And this is the Euro adapter that fits most European models. So really all you do is take the top off, you put new fluid in here, you put the top back on, you pump it a few times. It's got a little pressure gauge here, and you wanna make sure this goes up to 20. All right, so we are just gonna pour the rest of that first bottle we opened into here, and then we're gonna pour a second liter in as well. All right, after all the fluid's in there, we're gonna put the lid back on and screw that down to secure it. Now we can go ahead and attach this end up here to the reservoir. All right, when that is on nice and firm, we can go ahead and it should reach the floor. Yes. So just go ahead and pump this. It says above 15 and not to exceed 20. So I always go to 20, and then as you're pushing it through, the pressure is going to go down. And when it gets to 15, I just pump it back up to 20. And as you start pumping it, you should see the fluid starting to travel up here towards the reservoir. And you do want to check after it is pressurized just to make sure that it is not leaking out of here and you have a good seal. All right, you need a flare wrench like this, 11 millimeter, so that you can slip it over your tube here and get down on the head of this thing. And then you're going to loosen it, which is down. It should be down. All right, so we turned a little. And you don't have to turn this too much. All right, you can see that the fluid is already coming out. So this is the color of our old fluid, which isn't too bad. It's gonna come, so by just turning it a quarter turn here. And our pressure bleeder is pushing all of the old stuff out, and the new stuff will be going into our lines. So I'm just gonna leave the wrench there, and we're gonna keep an eye on this until we see, hopefully, a lighter color new fluid coming through. All right, it's starting to look a little bit lighter in here, so it's probably good. All right, so we will tighten that up, and it will stop it from bleeding. You can just pinch this up, lift it up, and it will drain into our bottle. And then you can just stick that right in there. And that's why I love this system. Yep, all right, now we'll walk around to the other rear wheel, and I'm gonna make Eric do it this time. So it shouldn't take quite as long on this one, because for the first one, all of the old fluid that was still in the reservoir and all the way down the long line got bled out. So we'll let this go, and while that's going, keep an eye on your pressure over here. Doesn't really matter if it gets low on you. The worst that's gonna happen is it's gonna stop pumping fluid through, but it can use a couple more pumps. All right, after our third side, this bottle is about full, so you can just empty this thing out, and then we'll go on to the last wheel. All right, all four are done. So now you just have to loosen the cap on this. Loosen the cap slowly to release the pressure in the system. There we go. Now all the extra fluid in the tube will drain back down. And then we can take this cap off. I just have a towel up here just to prevent any spilling going on.
That is slippery.
Yeah, I put that on tight so that it wouldn't leak. All right, so we can see the fluid level is under the max now, so we're just gonna take a little bit that we have left and top it off to the max line. All right, so stick that cap back on. All right, it is almost to the very bottom of the arrow, so without having to open a new bottle, that's close enough. So that's really it, just time for cleanup. If you get this kit, you will see that they tell you to use denatured alcohol to clean it all out. So I'm gonna clean it out, put it up for next time. So just put the wheels on, torque them up, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope this was helpful. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.